there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio with Joe Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre. We're playing now an edited version of a live show that we had in Second Life on Escapades at the beach just a few hours ago. It was great fun. It's our year-end show because the season ends. The year is not quite done yet, but we are done. And we will be back in mid-January with this show with more awesome guests and with a lot of new stuff, including new models of revenue and sponsorship available. And I'll be contacting folks. If you're interested to know more, please contact the Avatar Drax Files in Second Life or contact us via the Facebook Drax Files Radio Hour page, and I will tell you a little bit more about that. But here is the slightly edited tape of a wonderful show from within Second Life that started us talking about virtual worlds, then went into politics and policy because all that stuff is related, and then we ended it up with some crazy sea critters floating around in the water because that's what we do in Second Life. I mean, it's pure escapism, right? There's absolutely nothing of value other than riding around on sea turtles. Of course there is. So a bunch of really cool people showed up. Shyla, the super gecko, Calvin Kramer, who you know from Atlas Hopping, a.k.a. Will Thompson in Second Life, Dulce Baerga, who was on the show a bunch of times, and of course Joe, a lot of other people, Antonio, who I've not met before, Amelie Marcourt, Jesse, and so let's just dive right in. Here's Shyla, the super gecko, when I asked her about her Second Life, if it got better, worse, or what she would say to 2017 in regards to what virtual worlds have done or meant for her. And again, real quick, Shyla is protagonist of the Our Digital Selves documentary, which is coming in April 2018. I'm very excited about it. It's about people with disabilities and how they experience embodiment and placemaking in virtual worlds. Shyla is one of those wonderful people who entrusted me with the, I don't know, they gave me some, they gave me trust that I can do a good job putting this story together, and that terrifies me. But here's Shyla to kick off this very interesting discussion.
Every year in Second Life, I'll tell you this, Drax.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Every year gets better because every year I realize that, like, I don't know half of what's out there. Like, I'm here at this place, and I've never ridden a turtle in SL before. I've ridden dolphins, I've ridden all kinds of things, but you know, just finding all these places, finding, this year was a place to find the arts, I think was this year, you know, finding some of the theater groups and seeing how amazing those groups are. The whole place is amazing. And you know who the losers are? The losers are the people who are so stiff in the real world, they don't have the flexibility to play in this one. You know,
you have to embrace
I
play.
think that's it. Yeah, okay. You got it. Well, that's why I'm a gecko, right?
Shyla, I want to make the rounds real quickly. Other people also, Dulce Baerga, a.k.a. Candy Russell, just appeared. It's awesome. We got people coming in. Shyla, quick question, and then I'll make the rounds with the same question. You just wonderfully exemplified why SL really has not lost any wonders for you. Now, this year saw the advent of Project Sansar. High Fidelity's been around for some time. People are talking about VR. They talk about next generation virtual worlds. I mean, I'm going to tell honestly what I feel about all this, because especially working on the film with you has to me reaffirmed the importance of Second Life and the singular awesomeness of Second Life that is not yet at all replicated by any of the offerings in the immersive, so-called immersive VR world. So while some people have told me, oh my God, I bought a headset and to me kind of Second Life is now not interesting anymore, I have the exact opposite feeling, and as kind of related to what you were saying about the discovering other worlds, other people, that kind of thing. It's like a never-ending journey. It's infinite. So what would you say when somebody says, well, isn't Second Life over now that the headsets have arrived? Short answer, Shyla?
Oh, the short answer is no. I mean, because for people like me, right, and they really, people ought to check out your trailer. So I'll pitch the recent trailer you released, and watch me.
Oh, right. Shyla is in that trailer, and there's something we won't give it away, but it's hilarious, and nothing happened. Don't worry. If you laugh at the scene in the new teaser, I'm gonna paste it in the chat. If you laugh at that scene and then feel bad that you laughed about it so hard because maybe somebody got hurt or property was damaged, nothing was damaged, thankfully, so we can all laugh about it now.
Yeah, we can all laugh, but I think that's it. But. So no, I don't think, and I also think, at least today, it's easier to immerse in SL.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't feel immersed in Sansar. I feel like a visitor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for me to do. For me, it takes me a half hour to get logged into Sansar. The short answer is no.
Okay, so that was Shyla. We're gonna let's talk about this. Here's the trailer. I put it in the chat. Who wants to go next? Calvin was here before Dulce, so I need Calvin waited longer. Normally it's ladies first, but in this sense it's Will Thompson, aka Calvin, first. What is your take on how was SL for you? Is it still relevant even with the advent of Sansar and all this other stuff?
Surprisingly, yes. I have to admit that I haven't spent as much time in SL as I would have expected. However, it was probably not quite a year ago that I finally got a chance to rent one of the villas that I'd had my eye on since I first stumbled into 1920s Berlin. And I hopped from apartment to apartment until one finally became available, and I jumped on it. And then since then, Sansar's been going on, and High Fidelity's been going on, and Alt Space has been going on, and I've been visiting these other things.
Cannibalizing your SL usage.
Yeah, yes and no, but I've also spent more time playing video games, and I've never done that before. But in the past year, I've played a lot more video games than ever, and that's been stealing more of my time. Mm-hmm. But as far as virtual reality is concerned, I kind of like Shyla was saying, I feel like a visitor in Sansar, and a visitor in Hi-Fi, and a visitor in these other things, and Second Life still feels like home.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Who was talking over Calvin rudely?
I was just wondering.
Oh, you, Joe! What a surprise!
I was just asked a question.
I spent about a half a year playing Skyrim, and then in the last half year, or probably 3 months, I've been playing Witcher 3.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Dulce, thank you for coming. Dulce, what do you think about all this? Is Second Life still relevant in 2017? Will it be relevant in 2018 when VR is taking over?
So I think it's going to be the ultimate relevant metaverse because it is the oldest and it's been around the longest, and there are a lot of lessons that have been learned here. And now Linden Labs is getting a clue, and they're going to retrofit our servers to fit Amazon's web services, which is really exciting. So no, Second Life is not going away. In fact, it's actually going to get a bit of an upgrade of sorts. So it can be on the same level as Sansar and High Fidelity. Big difference between Second Life and Sansar and High Fidelity is that you can make your own server instances, where Second Life, obviously you have to buy a simulator on the grid that Linden Labs owns. And I think that's very beneficial for people who are just getting into virtual spaces. They don't need to have their own server system. They just need to get some land and enjoy a social environment. And I'm very happy to see that Linden Labs is actually going to do something about Second Life and not let it go.
This is interesting that you brought up. So they're moving to the cloud. I don't know. Do you want to take a stab in explaining that a little bit? I mean, we have the video of Tara Hernandez. She did a presentation at a event. The name escapes me. It was, I think, an Amazon event about that. Oh yeah, it was the AWS reInvent, where she talks about bringing Second Life to the cloud. Or anybody wants to jump in, explain that concept. What does that mean? Does that then will there be a mobile client? Will it be streamable? What does that mean, bringing it to the cloud?
From what my understanding, because she was very high level in the way she was speaking on it.
Yeah, I spoke to Tara one time. I met her once, and I couldn't even understand when she was ordering food.
My brain hurts.
She's above my pay grade.
But basically, it's going to make the grid system nimbler and able to handle faster delivery across multiple networks. That will then allow it to be played on a mobile device or on an untethered headset of sorts, and it'll also upgrade the servers to be in line with the different latency issues that we have right now, because these server systems are based on MySQL queries, and there's Perl script. There's tons of old infrastructure in place in Second Life, and they're going to kind of rip that out and put a newer, more nimbler, elastic kind of configuration on the back end. So it'll improve Second Life's rendering. It'll improve interactions. The latency, the lag will get better, and you'll be able to wear a headset eventually.
That is fantastic. And Shyla is asking, will it improve driving? I mean, I would venture to guess that it does when we're talking about lag. And, I think it also, again, we're linking to the video, but it may also, one part of the efficiency, I think, is that it will shut sims down, or kind of put them on sort of a little bit of a low-level loop or something where there is no traffic or nobody's in there. But I don't know. I have to yet watch the entire talk and then call Tara and have her explain it to me. We have a bunch more people. Thanks for coming. And we have people on YouTube. Drumstick A is on YouTube, and he says, has my 11th res day tomorrow. I think SL is definitely not going anywhere, and I see it as the ultimate community platform. That's Drumstick on YouTube. Now I was going to ask you, Dolce, because I had that on the last Sansar Atlas hopping. A friend said that he's done with SL because the immersive worlds, Sansar High Fidelity, he can't go back, is basically what he was saying. Like, the immersion factor is not enough for him in Second Life.
But what's he going to do in the other ones?
That's a good question.
That's a great question, Jody.
I mean, if you can build and create, if you've got if you understand the 3D software, I can understand that right now. Those other virtual worlds are a lot more interesting because you can build nicer things. But once you're done building, what you going to do?
Joe, he was referring to, and that's actually good, and I want you to jump in on this. He was also not so much referring to the activities. He was merely referring to the visual fidelity and the fact that it's not mediated by a screen. That he feels that he's inside. And me,
I can completely understand that. I have that with computer games. If I go to a game that's a couple of years old, that's visually excuse me, that's visually not as pleasing, that just doesn't look as good as new games, I find it really hard because I'm going, it's just not right. But in the end, the most important thing is what you do at your time when you're in virtual reality. And you can go to a nice new headset world and walk around, and it's great. But after a couple of hours or days or perhaps even weeks, what you gonna do? Because in the end, that's what it's about. And I would rather go play 1980s Pac-Man than just look at a pretty picture.
Yeah. What about you, Kelvin? What about you, Kelvin? Can you relate to that? The visual fidelity and Shyla says probably what Louis C.K. does. What is he playing? Is he playing Pac-Man now?
I do think Joe makes a good point. Like I said before, I only really discovered video games fairly recently, and I was encouraged by a friend at work who knows me well to try Skyrim, and I enjoyed it a great deal. But then when I got into Witcher 3, I don't think I could go back to Skyrim, because the visual fidelity is such a leap between those two. And although there is greater visual fidelity and lighting effects and spatial sound and whatnot in Sansar, there's some things that are interesting to visit in Sansar, but there isn't as much community built. There isn't as much going on there yet as compared to Second Life. Yeah, there's a little bit less visual fidelity here, but there's stuff to do, and there's people to talk to, and people have relationships, and there's an ecosystem here that doesn't exist in any of those other things yet. Hopefully they will, but you know.
I would like to make a point that Second Life, in my opinion, is doing amazing work in regards to avatars and how they emote and connect and have an expression versus these other environments that just don't take that in consideration. I mean, high fidelity definitely is going down the road of becoming more emotive, but I think Second Life definitely beats them all when it comes to having that kind of like social emotion going on between people who use it. And then play an argument for low fidelity rendering. I mean, high fidelity is great and beautiful pictures are great, but low poly rendering is just as good as if it's done right and you're engaging in it in a way that makes you feel good. So Google Blocks, for instance, is very low fidelity, but I can create things in it, and it's fulfilling in that way. And Second Life has that same feeling for me, where even though it's a low fidelity, I'm still able to really engage in this environment on a very emotional level that I can't in other environments.
That makes a lot of sense.
I have the strong feeling, Shyla. I want to throw this to Shyla. Hold on, Joe, because I know that Shyla and I are probably the lonely voices who are going to. I mean, at least me, because with Shyla we have in the Ethnographia group we have a woman who is blind. She is very, very active in Second Life, and she's blind. So for her, the visual fidelity is let's just put it this way, secondary, if important at all. And my point, which I'm going to be very brief because I'm a broken record on this, as someone who doesn't play games, not because I have an elitist disdain for them, I would argue that books and stories are the ultimate virtual worlds, and there is they're not arguing about poly counts in books. So I think going forward, this is what I want to throw to Shyla. What I'm a little bit worried about is that we're moving towards a world where this eye candy is so all-encompassing that we lose the importance of what is important, which is people and story. But Shyla, you were raising your hand. Take it where you will.
Yeah, and I see also in the low fidelity the benefit of just, I'm convinced 70% at least of the people, because SL doesn't keep, Linden doesn't keep demographics, but I'm pretty convinced 70% of the people in the virtual world have some form of different ability that leads them to this virtual world. And when you have differing abilities, a lot of times you begin to have financial issues, and the ability to even cross the economic line into some of these higher fidelities and be able to use the system. We have many, when you look at many of our members, they're using laptops that are 5 or 7 years old, and they're still able to come into Second Life. And I think, although Linden Labs doesn't keep these demographics, I think as users, as we look at where we're going, we have to consider this huge demographic that makes great use of the virtual worlds. And you're right, one of the issues with Sansar is here in Second Life, there is the option to create viewers. It's a lot of work. It's much harder than I think it once was, but we have text viewers, and so we do have a blind users group. We have many people who are blind and low vision. People here are very excited about the bento designs, thinking maybe we will have sign language in Second Life. So I think that I don't mean to overhype the differently abled community, but the reality is, I think we make up a huge part of the economy here.
I think,
and it's because this is an affordable economy for us, and we're also a huge part of the creator. So we're on both ends of that economy. We're purchasers and we're providers, and that's, I don't know. To me, right now when I look at Sansar and all the chords and everything, it's just completely. I feel, not only do I feel like a guest, and then I'm just kind of viewing something, but it feels so frustratingly inaccessible. And when I rise to the occasion to go in, really, it's an honor. I would only do it for certain people, to be honest. And so I don't know what else to say about it, but I just think, I really wish Linden did keep more demographics, because I think it would help guide us in where to go.
Very interesting.
But I worry a little bit about some of the upgrades. Like, are some of these upgrades that are coming, are they going to demand that people upgrade equipment? Because that's always a concern for me when I consider my peers.
Well, I think that's
many of my
unavoidable.
Peers. That's an unavoidable rat race, if you will, what a vicious cycle or whatever in the tech industry.
One day you have to upgrade. I mean, I'm biding my time, both in real life and in virtual reality. But sometimes I have to update as well, and I really don't like it. But it's the only way these worlds manage to keep afloat. They have to.
We're talking. Of course, Kelvin here throws in something important, which is also tech-based. I don't want to dissuade this conversation and say let's not talk about the technical stuff only. I want to talk about everything. But what is important is really, I think, the people behind it. With the Shyla's point is that differently abled or in common language, disabled folks make the majority of Second Life users, which should have implications on all the platform providers sort of thinking about accessibility. Calvin says here in the chat, the feature of selecting a maximum complexity of other avatars and a maximum number of other avatars rendered allows access with much less bandwidth or CPU, GPU horsepower. So that's something that probably the platform providers are working on. Antonio says the ease of use of SL building tools is key for me. And Calvin says he doesn't want to upgrade his real life avatar. What does that mean? You don't want to get Botox or
plastic surgery?
Joe was talking about having to upgrade in real life. And I said, I don't want to upgrade my avatar.
I was
no hair extensions are going to cover.
I was just making a little connection to how I can no longer use voicemail in real life, because for some strange reason it no longer works with my 1937 telephone.
Oh.
That's just what's happening yesterday all day in my real life. So my brain was making a really strange connection there for a second.
So this is
Can I tell a funny story about that?
One second, Shyla. I want to read the text real quick, and then we'll throw it to you so that we read the text, because we're also broadcasting this later on audio only. So you were saying, Shyla was saying SL is much more accessible than other platforms. We agree on that. Antonio says, I have a degree in education, not a developer. And Shyla is talking about that importance. And let me see here. We have on YouTube, we have Jesus coming in. Hi, Jesus. Jesus. He wants to know, how did we find the people for Our Digital Selves documentary? Did they come to me or ask to be part of the project? And he was looking forward to the full documentary. Let me just throw this in here real quick, and then we go further. Our Digital Selves project is a research project by the University of Irvine and University of Oregon. And this is a group in Second Life, the Ethnographia group, with about 30 members or so, maybe 15 active. And this is a 3-year study that I was asked to summarize in this documentary. It's a really in-depth look at how people with disabilities use their Second Life embodiment and placemaking, and how does that sort of reverberate into their real physical life. And Shyla is pasting the meeting slurl into the chat here. Loki Elliott has just arrived. Loki Elliott made all this happen. So thank you, Loki. We're having a great time. Thank you so much for the sea critters and everything. And also Astro Boy came. Astro Boy is absolutely awesome. He is making...
You could have washed your face though, Loki.
Yeah, Loki is very
Look at him.
dirty.
Very dirty.
He's a street kid.
Dirty boy.
Shout out to Astro Boy, who is a big supporter of the Drax Files Radio Hour. He part of his revenue is he throws to the Drax Files, so please buy his product. And Emily Marcrew, and I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Emily. Emily also just showed up. So what are we talking about? Shyla was raising her hand. Shyla, you wanted to come next?
I just wanted to talk about, the advance of technology. You know, my grandmother had a rotary, my grandfather wrote editorials about getting rid of the party line system and how horrible that would be for everyone. And then when he passed away and they got rid of rotary, they had to bring a team to take away my grandmother's rotary phone. So, yes, I totally agree that we have to... I know, and then she got the touch-dial phone, and I think that was when she was in her 60s. She lived to be 90. It was 30 years of hearing how horrible touch-dial was. But I think that is true. You know, we do have to be open to change, but I think SL changes... I don't know. Generally, it seems to be a changing pace I can keep up with.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and I think somebody else pointed out. I think someone else pointed out that we got the jellies, right, which really helped people who were having a hard time with the more complex avatars to not have to go through upgrading systems. So they do think about it, which is helpful.
Yep. You know, because you're bringing up this technology and sort of this crazy pace of technology that leaves people behind. For example, in Germany, they have a system where you have to approve a transaction now with the phone. It's an interesting security system. So there's an app. Well, here's the thing. My mother's cousin, who is 78, I think, she doesn't have a smartphone. So they go, okay, well, then you send it with an SMS. And you go, well, I don't use SMS. So now she has to go to the bank, to the physical branch, to do these transactions. And they go, well, you can call on the phone. Yeah, but you spend an hour on the phone. So here's somebody very concretely left behind by this technology.
Yeah. I can completely identify with her. I'm in exactly the same situation.
Yeah.
I can't do anything with my telephone.
Wouldn't it be good if they had banks in Second Life, just like they had like Domino's Pizza in 2007? Domino's Pizza had a Second Life place where you can order in Second Life, and then you get the pizza in real life, which is perfect. But let me ask you a serious question into the round, and anybody jump in. What do you guys think about the negative? If VR really takes off, and Loki Elliott, you asked this on, I don't know if we had a private Twitter organization or if you put this out on a tweet. Loki Elliott was saying, what if the mass adoption of VR is maybe the end? Maybe that really is not desirable at all. And we chatted a little bit along those lines, and I think the argument can be made that if everybody sits around in a headset, I think Ready Player One is certainly not a utopian narrative, as are many other ones. And Philip Rosedale would say, as he said to me in the past, "Oh yeah, that's just drama. They want to insert like all this dystopian stuff to kind of have some suspenseful narrative, and that's not going to happen.
And he's right. He's right about that. It is just drama.
I think I completely disagree with you, Dolce, but please tell me why you don't see any type of negative scenario. And let me throw in one more thing, because we're talking about 2017. We have seen the country of the United States and the world to a certain extent come apart by partially by social media and people siloing themselves off into worlds that are completely separate when it comes to facts. Are you not concerned that immersive virtual reality can have negative implications? Do you really think that we're all completely emotionally ready for that super immersion?
No, we're not all emotionally ready, but we're not going to have super immersion either. Not at the way you're seeing or thinking about super immersion. People are not going to adopt to go deep into an immersive world just yet. It's going to have to get a lot worse in the world for that to happen. I think augmented reality will definitely be the thing that takes off in the mainstream before virtual reality. Before people jump into a virtual space and get completely lost in a world and live in that world forever, you're going to see more people engage in the real world with augmented reality as a mainstream media.
Shaila made a very good point. 1 a.m. Friday in the U.S. it got worse. Why? Because Congress is debating a tax bill, and I'm not going to get into detail. It's abhorrent what is being pushed through. Yeah.
It's not even debated anymore. It's passed.
Right. It's passed. So this is incredible, and I'm not gonna claim that people are just sort of zoning out in rec room or whatever, or in high fidelity, and they're not paying attention to the real world. I don't want to make that argument, because that's the argument people have made to me for over 10 years when I tell them how awesome Second Life is, and then they tell me, there's people just sort of escaping and they don't even know what the heck is going on. So I'm not going to make this argument. There's always going to be people who disengage, and it's irrelevant if there's a virtual world or a bunch of 2 bottles of whiskey or whatever. So it's the same thing. But having said that, I think that we Dulce, you're making a good point. But when you said augmented reality will take off, which I find really super interesting. I used to work in a mental health care facility, and we had people who told us that other people were talking to them and flying around and telling them all sorts of things, and then usually they get a diagnosis of being a schizophrenic. Now, I am concerned that there is possibility of some really sophisticated propaganda with these technologies.
Right.
You can send messages. Like, for example, now we had a guy who believed the Clintons are running a pedophile ring out of a pizza place, and that was only made in text. If you could produce video, or even immersion or augmented reality little vignettes, you know what I'm saying?
Well, didn't they just recently release a completely digitized fake video of Obama?
Yes.
Saying things?
Oh yeah, right.
And that was. And that was almost impossible to analyze as being fake. I mean, you have to be an expert and have some analytical tools to find out that that's really fake. But that's coming, and it's been going on for over a century. Photoshop is very, very old. People have been messing with history, with the news, for as long as there is news.
There are 2 Canadian companies that are working right now on hyper-realistic avatars that you can basically take any text message or a WAV file from another voice and have that use the same tonality, sound, and facial expressions of a actual person. And you couldn't tell the difference if you took a video or made a video of them. And these are two startups with teams of 5 guys working out of Canada, working on these types of technologies right now.
The reason why this
very scary.
the reason why this scares me, it's spooky. But there's a lot of wonderful use for this stuff. The big problem is that I don't think humanity as a whole is not. There's 2 problems. Number one, if there is a way to make money with this in sort of unethical ways, people will do it because money always trumps ethics. That's number one. And number two is that we're just not emotionally ready to kind of deal with it. I mean, I used to believe that social media is sort of awesome in bringing people together and bringing diverse populations together. And right now it seems to be that social media is making us all turn us all into 10-year-olds with a temper tantrum. I mean, of course, the United States is led by a 5-year-old who is in a constant temper tantrum. That doesn't help either.
For now.
Yeah.
but on the other hand, our bubbles are being burst.
Yes.
We are talking with, suddenly we are face to face digitally with people we don't agree with. I've had discussions with extreme religious people. I've had discussions with people who are on the opposite side, politically speaking. I've had discussions with proper
hippies.
Neo-Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
I've had discussions. No, I don't talk to hippies. I've had discussions with ISIS members. How can you imagine that happening 10, 20, 30 years ago? And it doesn't make me like them even more, or at all. It doesn't make me even remotely consider their point of view. But there is communication, and that is one of the good things. Even though it doesn't get us very far, it does make people think. And on the other hand, it also makes people perhaps distrust everything they see in the media, which, as a cynic and someone who's been taught at film school how to fake everything, I think that's a good idea, because for the first time, the average Joe is looking at the television and going, wait a minute, this could be a computer fake, and they don't even have to wear their silver foil hats. They might actually be true. It might actually be right.
So that's awesome. So paranoid schizophrenics are all of a sudden elevated to the level of the New York Times. No, I don't disagree with you.
They're right. They are, for the first time, they are right.
Joe,
I don't think it's just that. I think I heard the greatest line the other day, which was, well, you have your facts and I have mine. But a fact is a fact. Like, you might have your theory and I have mine, but we're in a society where people actually think there are different sets of facts.
Yeah, there's people who actually think the Earth is flat. Joe, I know what you're saying.
And that's when you hit them in the face with science.
Well, but I think that these two trains are going into opposite directions, and I am really concerned that it's also irreconcilable. And I also feel the biggest problem, and I'm going to shut up in a second, let you guys talk. The biggest problem is actually distrust in really good journalism. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with being critically looking at journalistic output, but it's a very different thing when everything is up for debate, and what Shyla is saying, that's about facts. So right now, the distrust in any type of institutions is highly problematic, I think, because it shifts now to a like anything goes type. You can't trust anybody, so what the hell? This loss of trust in absolutely anything is not helpful for the cohesion of any society, and that's my 2 cents. And Amelie is throwing into the mix here, of course, net neutrality, which is huge. If net neutrality is killed, then good luck with the metaverse. That's all I can say.
So I can bring something up about net neutrality, and basically what we're discussing here on the fake level of society that has been casted over us with social media. It is going to get worse, but the agency over it on the individual is going to get higher. You will be able to control whatever your environment will be, as long as we do come up with proper ethics and rules and regulations around what that means. Like, what does it mean to control my environment around me? How am I going to be able to change my environment around me? When mixed reality, which is the convergence of both augmented reality and virtual reality, comes into play, and it's going to be fed through the Internet of Things. Once you're walking into a room and everything around you senses you and reads you and serves up content based on your preferences, the world is going to be completely different. And then you're going to have quantum computers in play. That's another realm that we're not even prepared for, but that's looming. In the next 10 years, we're going to start seeing commercial quantum computers on the market. So I know that everything's scary right now. We got this fake news thing happening, but that's because most of us don't control the central source of those news informations. Facebook is a black hole funnel, and so are all the telecoms and the broadcasting networks. They're all, these holes and pits and abysses of falseness that we don't have any control over. But once we come up with a new cloud or a new internet, let's make a new internet that is totally
but we have to own
about mixed reality. Yeah, and we have to own it. And that's where the blockchain comes in. So when we realize that money is an illusion, it's false, it's fiat, it's just like the blockchain. The real power, the real value is within the individual themselves and the IP that they can create themselves. When things become automated,
we need to have a true digital democracy where we have agency over this data, and then we can be active agents within this metaverse structure. I totally agree with you. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but I want to read in the text. So because we're going to go audio later, Shyla is saying she throws a towel over Alexia when she when she changes because that's pervy. No, I mean, yeah, it's like camming in Second Life, And Joe makes a great point. I wanted to actually say exactly the same thing. She says we need science lessons at school, not only about science but scientific thought, how we should analyze, learn, and debate. And let me say that, Joe, this is exactly my thinking, because I think the fake news thing and what we're dealing with now, what Dulce is saying, where we're going with supercomputing and AI and Internet of Things, I wouldn't be scared of this at all. I would completely embrace it if I were confident in basic education that is available to everyone, where we know how to critically think about things. But we don't have that. It's a luxury thing right now, where people kids in private schools, they can have that. The public system is not equipped to churn out kids that can handle.
We should teach children to ask the question, prove it. And then we should teach children how they can try and prove things. And, the difference between thesis and theory and fact and all those things. And get children ready to be critical, but also to learn how they can try and prove things. And then they can move on. And so few people have that.
I agree, Joe. And
But why don't they have it? That's
school,
a policy issue. Sorry, Shyla, go ahead.
No, they told me in school that I basically was supposed to believe what I was told in elementary school. Then when I got to university, they're like, you shouldn't believe anything I'm telling you. You should prove it. And it's like a little late to teach me to question everything. And then you took a couple of LSD trips, and the LSD trip said, oh, look at them colors. Sorry. Well, yeah, you know me well, but I think especially history classes in the U.S. I mean, we really ought to be questioning everything, but it would throw the U.S. school system on its head if kids started to question, because the information's out there today, right? I mean, the kids would actually have the power to get a proper education if kids were given the power to question. But every time I questioned, I met the principal.
But Shyla, the problem is so complex, because now this also plays into it with this whole everybody makes up their own world. There's a scenario possible where some kid goes in and their dad is a flat earther or whatnot, and the kid goes in and says, well, the earth is flat, what are you telling me? Let me tell you a quick anecdote. My son was in Catholic kindergarten before we went to public school, and I'm so glad about that. I mean, in Monterey County, there were some very good public schools, but he was in Carmel in the Christian school, and the principal calls me, says, well, your son is really kind of a problem right now, and I got to talk to you. And I said, what's the problem? And they told him that God created the sun, and he said, no, that's not true. Okay, he was 5 years old. So I totally know what you're getting at, but this is a complex issue where we need to have more teachers. We have to have really good ones. We have to have small class sizes. We have to be sort of free of ideology in the school system. Emily mentioned propaganda. I mean,
our school system is designed for workers, not for free thinkers.
Yeah.
And automation is going to kill the worker and prop up the free thinker, and it's all by design because they want to eliminate as many people as possible. That's what this whole tax bill is about. It's like, let's kill off as much of the poor as we can and subjugate them as much as we can and allow the people who have the money to really benefit from this new society that we're building. This automated
reinforce the power of the oligarchy.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what's happening.
To get back to why we're here. And
you guys are such Debbie Downers. Let's talk some like
let's get away from we don't all live in America.
Let's talk
but we do all live. But we do all live in virtual reality. So let's bring it back to VR.
That's true.
Thank you, Joe.
And let's look at how we can change these things and how VR might change these things. For instance, by in the future, as a school, you can all come with the entire class. You can go to 1920s Berlin in virtual reality, and it could be photorealistic, but it would be built, and there will be people there who are not all from America, who are not all Christians, who do not all agree on the same political ideas, and children would be allowed to walk around on their own and explore and meet these characters and see how people lived, and perhaps learn in a completely different and new way, and step away from the dogma that their school tries to force on them, or their system.
I totally
and see
agree.
that these disparate people with disparate beliefs actually get along with each other just fine.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. I hate everybody.
So hard, Joe.
But at least I hate everybody equally, so that's nice.
I think here in I'm going to talk about the States too, but the other power of the virtual world, to me, and we saw this when in Southside schools, kids got computers in schools for the first time. Al Gore put them in, and suddenly they realized that it didn't have to be the life they were living. They could be doctors, and I think when you come into the virtual world, it expands it even further.
Yes.
I think the creative pull of the virtual world, like I'm a gecko. I can't be a gecko in the real life, but I can certainly embody what a gecko is. It's being highly intellectual at the moment.
Today's science.
Yeah, maybe today's science, I can get the gecko change surgery in the future. But for now, I'm a gecko here. And I think that, embodying that persona has then allowed me to move to different places and creativity. And I think there's all kinds of tools here for that sort of thing too. And I think it helps also even with learning or interaction, that a shy person can adopt an avatar that makes it easier to interact with other people within a virtual world. And we hear this all the time, actually, from people with certain conditions, that they can interact with people far better in a virtual world, whereas in a real world environment, they tend to stay at home. They don't want to communicate. They feel like they don't fit in properly, but they come to the virtual world and they can communicate, interact, do presentations, do things they just can't seem to do in the real world. And I to me, that's some of the greatest power of the virtual world.
I completely agree, but I would say, isn't that interesting? And it's going to be in our Digital Selves documentary, because I filmed at Linden Lab with Björn Linden, who I respect highly. But we were there with Tom, the principal researcher, and Donna, and they were talking about the roadmap in Sansar, and of course building is going to come and all that, and collaborative, and it's all on the roadmap, and in high fidelity it's already there. But he also said that they have research, because Tom asked him, Tom said, Björn, it seems to me that you guys have identified, in terms of priorities, that you are doing other things before the collaborative building aspect. So that leads me, as Tom says, to believe that you identified only a very small percentage of people actually do build, so it's not a priority for you guys. And he said, yeah, that's true. And so, you hear this time and again. And what we're talking about in this circle right now, and so eloquently people were saying, the power of the virtual world is to get us motivated, that we can do more that we thought we could, and because of the ease of use and because of the lack of judgment here and there and stuff. It seems to me that not a lot of people take advantage of that.
Well, there are different kinds of building, and I think I think I've said this before, I don't think there's anyone in Second Life who's older than a year who has not built something, even if it's just one cube to sit on. So I really wonder what kind of questions they've asked, or if they've just looked at,
I think they just looked
the
at
facts and figures.
They looked at facts and figures. You know how many people actually do also travel to other sims and stuff.
Have
like
shops
that.
And have and own sims where they've actually built stuff. Exactly. Everyone wants a cube sometimes. So I think maybe their question. Sure. Maybe the way they researched this wasn't expensive enough. Expansive, not expensive, but never mind.
No, it's good. Expansive. Somebody just rested.
Yeah, expansive.
Somebody just rested 2 cubes. Who is that?
See,
They're beautiful.
It's
they
Loki,
are,
of course.
Loki.
I think Loki is boxing Joe in.
Yeah, boxer.
Should I be flattered or angered?
No, it should be flattened like flat Earth.
I would like to add a thought about that.
The question, though, to Joe's,
another thing.
Sorry.
Wait. One at a time, please. Joe, and then
I'd like to,
Calvin. And
I'd just like to add one more thing. Virtual reality is there are 2 kinds of building in VR: a building of stuff and building of community. And right now, both the tools to do both those things in Sansar are lacking. I don't have the tools there to create happy hour, to have tenants, to give people the options to rent a home. All those things that I need for my community are not there yet. So there are 2 kinds of building, and both those kinds are not there for me yet. So for me, Sansar right now it's nice, but it's not where I spent my time.
Yeah. So, but that's
this is only anecdotal, but these people who are discussing that only so many people build, that's true. I'm one of the people who doesn't build very much. But that's a little bit beside the point, because there's a difference between wanting to be in an area that is built by a corporation as opposed to the homey charm of being built by someone that you actually get to talk to at happy hour.
Oh, that's such a good point.
I only pretend to talk to you.
No, but Calvin is saying,
she only virtually talks to me.
I think that's what Linden Lab learned the hard way when they tried to kind of clean up Second Life, the 2008 era, for corporate use, and it didn't catch on. I mean, there's multiple reasons why certain marketing campaigns from Comcast and Ben & Jerry's, I just remember really shitty ones, didn't pan out. It was primarily because the marketing folks at these companies really didn't understand how to use virtual worlds, and it could have been good, but it was pretty bad. But also one factor really was that it turned out the Second Life users really enjoyed their time in Second Life away from that pull right into that corporate environment. They enjoyed places where they knew, it's the Etsy phenomenon, at least when Etsy started. I mean, Etsy's a whole other story where it evolved now, but yeah.
And I just want to follow. I just want to let you know. I think it was how many users see themselves as builders, because I think I agree that everybody's built a prim. Or probably most people been around a little time have built a prim or gone to a building class, and I would say too, to Drax's point, this idea of the fact that many people don't see themselves as builders, to me is not relevant, because selecting an avatar is not the same as building. Interacting is not the same as building, but it's just as relevant and important for the existence of Second Life as we know it today.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there are a lot of people who don't call themselves builders, but when they go to Sansar, after a couple of days will say, "Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that." Suddenly they realize that there are things that we consider building that they can't do, but it's not enough for them to call themselves builders. So I'm really curious about how Linden Lab did this checking and testing, and I wonder if perhaps they got it wrong.
This is also it's also about the progression what people are pointing out. you may start with your avatar, and then you get, your appetite is whetted, and then you keep going. I mean, we all know these stories, how things kind of progress. Okay, we're nearing the end of the program already, because we got to keep it tight. I want to read a little bit from the chat. Loki Elliott made a really good point. In VR, you can visit a flat Earth and learn how flat it is. Actually. And also Loki added, then, in fact, if you go up high enough in Second Life, you can see the curve of the grid. Granted, it's curved the wrong way, but it's still a curve. So I think we should get some flat Earthers here.
Oh my god! The world is an orb, but we're inside it. Wow.
Antonio, who is an educator, says, as a teacher, because we had this discussion earlier, the complex thing with what the teacher's role is, he says, as a teacher, you have to submit to the system. We have a lot of comments on YouTube as well in that regard. Actually, the ratings on YouTube are double from what we usually get in Sansar Atlas hopping. I don't know what that means.
That's because
You're welcome.
I'm here.
Oh, Calvin is logged in with 5 machines. Okay. That's how you get the ratings. I learned that from Donald Trump, who's following 5 million Russian bots. Actually, they're following him. Loki is saying, I just asked my 6-year-old nephew what he would like to use VR for, and the answer is to play Minecraft. Okay, I gotta say this, it's not apropos of anything, but Notch, the creator of Minecraft, has tweeted a disturbing tweet, which I retweeted, the comment on it, and he tweeted, it's okay to be white.
White is a racist term?
Joe, don't get me started.
I'm not white. I'm sort of pinkish, skin colorish, sort of thingish.
The level of what I'm trying to say is you have to separate the art from the artist, but sometimes you can't. So I'm not.
Oh my god, he is a stormtrooper.
I used to enjoy Woody Allen movies. I can't watch them anymore, and I think I'm thinking of Minecraft a different way. I mean, Minecraft has a life of its own, thankfully, and if the creator is a delusional millionaire,
it is a great game, but you can say what you like. It's ugly.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's one of the few things to actually make me sick in VR.
I think I upset.
Yeah, I played the Minecraft thing that was in the Oculus store or whatever, and you can turn too fast, and I got myself dizzy sick in that game.
Now, last question here, and then we can all go on the sea critters and go nuts. What are you guys looking for in 2018? We still have a month to go, but you can never start Christmas too
Sailor.
early. What do you
Middle-aged male bento avatars.
Oh!
Ooh, kinky.
Oh, Calvin, this is awesome. Then let me rephrase the question. What do you want to see? And that is fantastic. And I want to actually...
Oh, okay. Well, let me rephrase my answer. Middle-aged bento male avatars nude.
Ooh! In great detail.
Yes.
You pervert.
Only in Second Life, because as we know in Sansar, the underwear is baked on. We learned that last week.
What?
Oh yeah, you got to read the meeting notes. We don't have time to.
Yeah, don't get too close to the fire. Your underwear will get baked on.
Ouch! That sounds painful. That does remind me of an accident I had when I was 8, but let's not talk about that.
Anybody else?
I don't want to be. You know what?
Shyla?
I want to. I want to see greater activism in SL that moves out internationally into the world, because I think this is a place that we are international, and we can have a voice that's universal, which is, I think, gives us an advantage, and I don't think we use it enough. So that's what I'm hoping for in 2018. In fact, I just created a group. There's nobody in it yet except me. It's going to die in a minute if I don't do something about it. But called Podiums.
Put it out there.
Called Podiums. I will. It's called
join.
Podiums, and Podiums stands for people opposing distortion in universal media sectors. And I want to see that take off in Second Life, where we write letters like Amnesty International writes letters to the media when things are distorted, when groups are portrayed or misportrayed, and so forth. And I think we have the power to do that here in a virtual world in a way we can't anywhere else.
Shyla, this is an awesome idea. Awesome idea. So Podium, sign up right now. We're gonna paste it also when the video renders and when the show comes out later today. The podcast, the audio only. I want to say, Shyla, you're so right. And I think the irony, we pointed it out before, prior, Joe and I on the show, is that Facebook and Twitter and other social media platforms are getting a lot of criticism for their role in sort of siloing people off, and because of their business model, selling specific ads to specific groups and kind of creating those sort of fact-free environments and tribes. I find it hilariously ironic that we in Second Life, who've been accused many times because of the pseudonymity that nobody knows who these guys are, it's so weird, that we are actually way more authentic and, like you said, theoretically have a much better opportunity to harness this power for good. So who wants to be the last word? Dulce, any comment? What are you looking forward to in the next year, technology-wise, virtuality-wise?
Well, definitely the AWS connection with Linden Labs is so exciting to me. I can't wait until it actually starts to roll out. Internet, it's the VR AR cloud. That's the beginning of it. So I'm excited to see that.
I just hope I get internet when I'm moving.
Joe's like, what is a flip phone? Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. Joe is moving. Good luck with that. We won't see her for the entire year because I don't know if she's moving to the countryside.
I'm moving to a farm in the middle of the countryside on the German border, far away from civilization.
That's really risky,
but
Joe.
But either I'm getting 3 MB internet there, or I'm getting 500 MB internet there. It's not quite sure yet. So I'm in the middle of moving. I've got my house packed in boxes, and I'm going either to a better internet place or a worse internet place, and I have no idea yet.
That's it. That's the end of the show. That was so much fun. We were riding around the pufferfish, the sea turtle, the squid, the seahorse, stuff that Loki Elliott, the owner of Escapades, made. And so, let me just end the show. Let me end this year with saying to the listeners, guys, you are the best listeners on the planet. We really cherish you. We want to make the best community show about Second Life and virtual worlds that there is out there. And we actually believe we're actually already doing that, but that doesn't mean we can do a better job, and we will. So it's really, really exciting to have you on board as listeners, as corporate sponsors, as individual subscribers, voluntary subscribers, people who support the show. You can always support the show. It takes a lot of time to think about guests and to put this together. A big shout out to Justin Esparza from Caravelle Design, who has been amazing with these weekly images, the featured image on the blog post, just really kind of wonderfully depicting the essence of each show. Thank you, Joe, for being my co-host and putting up with the ever-changing schedule, all the people who appeared on the show, all the sponsors. Just wonderful. And it's a lot of work to be done, a lot of fun to be had. Second Life is not going anywhere, and we're not going anywhere. We are going to expand a little bit, broadcasting from other worlds this coming year, but we will not abandon Second Life. Second Life is the home base. We are visitors. Like some of the participants today said, we're visitors, we're guests in these other worlds, but our home is in Second Life. And that's it. And a wonderful start in the new year to all of you guys. And contact me anytime in world through Drax Files Avatar also, or drax@draxter.com. Have an absolute fabulous time. Seize every single day. Make it count. And bye.
The Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Time Portal, SL Artist, Warbug, Bay City You Know for Kids, 01 Heavy Industries Corporation, Extraordinary, Ionic, Maven Homes, Giza Creations, Botanical, Strawberry Sing, Abranimations, Eros Avatars, Caravelle Design, The Cube Republic, What Next, Landscapes Unlimited, Fallen Gods Incorporated, and Death Row Designs. Thumbnail by Justin Esparza. Contact the show via Skype, DraxFiles, Avatar DraxFiles, or email radio@draxfiles.com.